Hi, welcome to Spotlight, your story, their lifeline, a mother-to-mother podcast. I'm Mimi.
And I'm Dobra, and together we are your hosts. In this mother-to-mother podcast, you will meet women sharing their stories of struggle, triumph, and hope. Our aim is to ensure that no woman ever feels alone.
Through their brave storytelling, these women become lifelines for others on their own journeys. So join us as we dive into the incredible stories that inspire and empower.
Welcome to Spotlight, where your story becomes a lifeline.
Thank you to this episode's sponsor, CourierPoint. CourierPoint.com helps businesses and individuals ship parcels easily across the UK and to more than 200 countries worldwide. Partnering with leading carriers like DHL, UPS, and FedEx, they offer global delivery with local prices, saving their customers time, money, and hassle. CourierPoint. Send smarter, pay less. Welcome back to Spotlight. Today we are joined by Judy Fagelman, a remarkable mum, sharing her journey raising her son Ikey. What began as an ordinary story of motherhood became one filled with medical appointments, long hospital stays, and moments she never imagined she would face. This episode is for all the mothers and fathers who live between home and hospital, and for the friends in the community who want to understand how to truly be there for them. So, Judy, we are so grateful for you coming on the podcast today.
Woohoo! Hi. Thanks for having me. I feel quite a huge pressure after that kind of intro, as if I'm representing such a huge community of people that are juggling like the medical world and normal world. So that's quite heavy.
So you're sharing your story, and obviously everyone deals with it in different ways. And everyone appreciates different things and everyone feels different things. So you're sharing how you're going through it, and and I'm sure there will be many people that will be able to relate and feel validated by the way from what you're going through.
Yeah, that's definitely my hope and intention with doing it. More so to say that I hope that I give over my lived experience in a way that feels validating and feels comforting to anybody else that's going through it. Not to say that I am in any way speaking on behalf of other people who are going through such a situation or challenge.
Thank you for agreeing to come on, because
no problem.
It's a big thing to share, something.
It is. I actually asked Ikey's permission before doing it, because obviously while this is my lived experience, it's very much his.
What did he say?
And I wanted to make sure, which is kind of how I do this whole medical journey anyway, is very much including him in choices and decision making and things like that. What's within his remit, obviously. And I did ask him if he'd be okay with me coming on and talking about our little journey. And he said, yeah, he understood that hopefully it would help people.
Obviously, it goes without saying that people should be sensitive and not approach him about this. How old is Ikey now?
He is 10. He's nearly 11.
It's big. So it's your eldest, Ikey?
He is my oldest, yes.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what it was like before you gave birth to Ikey, where you were up to, what your dreams were, what your life was like, and then let's get into your journey.
Sure. So I have 3 boys, Kanai and Hara. And I mean, what was my dreams and aspirations? I couldn't tell you. I wanted to do everything and anything. I'm very excitable and bounce around from things. I was a makeup artist at the time.
So how old were you when you got married?
I was 21 and I was over the hill and one of the last of my friends, which is mad.
It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
No, I'm so glad it's not. So glad that we've moved on from that a bit.
Then you had your baby how long later?
So he was born, I want to say a year later. It was all really straightforward, Baruch Hashem. Really, really, to the level of naivety that you dream about later in life. You know, that you don't appreciate it at the time because I hadn't had any other experiences, but believe it or not, it was a really good birth, good pregnancy. And yeah, he was an easy kid. He was a normal, regular kid. I had my second, I had 2 under 2, so 22 months later. And we were just doing normal life, drowning in nappies and trying to keep everyone alive. And that was before there was medical involved. General motherhood.
Exactly.
And then he had allergies. We got him tested. Turns out he was anaphylactic to a couple of things, which, interestingly enough, because I know to some people that is really major, which it is, because you've got something that you know can harm and potentially really harm your child.
Can I just interrupt you here?
Sorry.
Can you just say what anaphylactic is for the listeners who haven't experienced or seen?
Sure. So when he was about 2 years old, we went to actually a upsharing, and he had a peanut chew and projectile vomited across the room. I still remember the person's skirt that it landed on. I still feel bad every time I see her. And
it was an
got
instant
him tested.
reaction?
Yeah, completely. And it turns out actually peanuts are the only nut that he's not anaphylactic to. He's just intolerant to that. Anaphylaxis is where the allergy causes the throat to close. And obviously that stops the person breathing, which is when they'd get an EpiPen, which stimulates everything, the adrenaline in the body, to help keep the person breathing until they can get to hospital. So we got that diagnosis. He's anaphylactic to a fair few things and also allergic, intolerant to a bunch of other stuff. And looking back at it now, it's hysterical that I wasn't more freaked out by it, because that was the only medical thing I had going on. And I know for some people, anaphylaxis and allergies and all these things, rightfully so, are incredibly scary. I don't know if it was my naivety or just optimism.
Do you have anyone else in the family who had allergies that maybe it was...
No.
Right.
No one. It just came out of nowhere. I don't know why. My husband's a very, very chilled nature person. He's also chronically positive. It's frustrating at times, but incredible most of the time. And I guess that must have just bled onto me, and we were just very chilled about it. But yeah, so he has an EpiPen, and he otherwise went on as a normal child medically.
But you're saying you didn't know he was anaphylactic straight away then, because you're saying he first threw up from this peanut chew.
Yeah, so based on that reaction, we were referred to the allergy clinic, where they do allergy testing, which is where they do pinprick tests. So small amounts of loads of different foods, and then they mark it and they assess how much the body reacts to it, and that tells you their level of reactivity.
Did you at all think after you threw up from that peanut chew, maybe he's just not well? Or was it a different kind of...
No, I wasn't in a medical world. I wouldn't have had any reason to think anything other than, oh, he must be allergic.
I think there's such a knowledge nowadays of peanut chews, peanut chews,
yeah,
peanuts.
Yeah.
In schools and everything. So it's kind of like, if you see your child's having peanuts and something's wrong, you're like, ooh, straight away your antennas go up.
Yeah,
it was his first time.
It was also so immediate. Yeah, but it was so immediate. It was within seconds.
Okay, right.
It couldn't have been anything else.
Right.
So we got him tested. He was obviously severely allergic to many of the things he was tested for. But again, I can't tell you why. It doesn't make sense, because I've got friends with kids with allergies, and it's really scary. Understandably,
Yeah.
I'm not minimizing it for a second, but I have no understanding. Or maybe Hashem was preparing me, if we want to be holy about it. Maybe he was preparing me for the medical world I was going to go into, and he gave me a calm introduction to it in my response. So I really didn't freak out as much as potentially I could have, and I do in many other situations. It's almost out of character that I didn't freak out about it. And that was sort of our intro into hospitals. And that's, I mean, not that that remotely relates to his conditions, but that was our introduction. So yeah, we got the EpiPens, we got the medication, and then he went on as normal until he was around like the 3-4 mark. We started noticing he was getting not well. You know, like when kids get viruses or flus. And again, I had my second already, so I could see they were catching the same things but reacting very differently. So like my second son, he would you know, be not well for a day or two and get better the way kids do, where Ikey would last anything from, you know, 4 days to 2 weeks with a simple cold or a virus. We ended up in hospital a few times with him. Again, we weren't freaking out about it. We just thought he must have like just not a strong immunity, but we didn't analyze it. The doctors didn't analyze it. It was also with very common things like croup or chest infection things, which a lot of kids get, and some kids get bad. So, okay, so he's a kid that gets croup.
It didn't alarm you.
You know, no, it really, really didn't. I was piecing things together without realizing it. Like you're going, okay, that's interesting that he's got that and he's got that. And he had a few things, they're not relevant to this story, so it's not necessary. But like there was just a bunch of stuff that were coming up, and I guess I was piecing it together of saying it seems abnormal, but I had no idea what. Until he was 6 years old. At this point, I was pregnant with my third. Yes. Pregnant with my third. I was 7 months pregnant, and this was after my miscarriage. So I had a miscarriage in between him sort of being not well-ish with 2 kids until this episode that really started off our medical journey. So just to put in perspective all that lovely talk I had before about being positive and chilled, I was not in a positive and chilled headspace at all. I was 7 months pregnant, post miscarriage. I was anxiety ridden. When I say that I was barely functioning because my brain didn't let me, I was so nervous constantly, every minute of every day about that pregnancy. And I'm just going to do, I know this isn't the topic, but I'm just going to do a shout out to anyone that has had a miscarriage or is going through one at the moment. And I'm just sending them a massive hug and loads of love and kaya.
Wow, Judy. Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that you went through this. It's absolutely awful. And I completely resonate with the anxiety part in pregnancy post miscarriage. I've been in that space too, unfortunately. And I think you're right to do a shout out here. In fact, we'll actually, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to be doing an episode on early miscarriage because it's such a hidden, private, you've just got to move on because no one can know and you don't look pregnant, people don't know that you were pregnant situation that it's so painful.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, wow. So Judy, how far were you with the miscarriage?
So I had what was called a missed miscarriage. So I miscarried at about 8 weeks, but I only found out at 12 weeks. So where I was at was I was 7 months pregnant with, Baruch Hashem, a healthy pregnancy, my third son. But this was my first pregnancy after my miscarriage. That had happened before this pregnancy. And I was I was in a very, very anxious headspace. I was not in a positive, bouncy, seeing the light. Like, no, I was living day to day with constant anxiety, terrified about this pregnancy. And I know everyone reacts really differently to miscarriages, that every reaction is valid. If someone ignores it, moves on, or wasn't overly affected, or someone, it destroys them, and everything in between is completely normal and valid, and each person does it their way. For me, it crippled me. It completely shattered my innocence and my inner calm. I think that's a really good way of saying it, because that was the headspace that I was in when we started this medical journey with Ikey. So what happened was, it was a few days that he'd been not well. I don't even remember what he was not well with. He just wasn't well. And then he just wasn't getting better. And we're used to this with Ikey at this point. So you're doing the Calpol and you're doing the ibuprofen, and his temperature wasn't coming down. It wasn't getting better. And I was starting to get worried. And either way, I put him to bed. I feel like it was a Motzei Shabbos, but I might be wrong. And he wasn't well for a few days, and he didn't seem to be getting better. But again, this is what we were used to with Ikey. So we were doing all the regular medications, but his temperature just wasn't coming down. And when you go, okay, tomorrow, let's see how he is in the night. I wasn't sure. And I put him to bed, and then a few hours later, I heard him shouting. So I ran upstairs to his bedroom. I'm like, what's up? What's up? And he wasn't responding to me, but he was laying in his bed, just talking gibberish.
Was he hallucinating?
He was having quite severe hallucinations, and we couldn't rouse him. So he was just verbally spewing, but with no consciousness. At which point his fever was obviously really high. We called Hatzalah, and my husband went to hospital with him. I stayed home with my second, and obviously at this point we're going, try and keep Judy calm because she's pregnant, and we need to keep her anxiety level down. And my husband took him to hospital, where he was extremely, extremely ill in the waiting room. Thank God he didn't wait long, but he was vomiting and hallucinating, and it was really, I believe, rather traumatic for my husband. And when we got him seen, he was admitted, and it turned out what was going on was he was going through organ failure. He was going through something called aplastic crises, which meant slowly each one of his organs that were feeling overwhelmed from trying to fight whatever infection or whatever was going on with him was giving up. It wasn't fun.
It's very, very serious.
Was your husband updating you at the time? Was he like...
Yeah. So this is already over the course of him being admitted. This wasn't on the first night.
Right, they did tests and, slowly...
Yeah, on the first night, they were just trying to...
get the fever down.
I don't want to say keep him alive, because they never explicitly told me he's, going that way. But I was very acutely aware that he was on very high support at that point. And obviously then me and my husband, we swapped. He had to go to work and do, sort childcare. And I sat in hospital with Ikey, which became my very, very proud place. I absolutely love and value and cherish my time that I got to be there with him. I think it's an incredibly special bonding time, horrific and not something any mother wants to go through or should go through, but there's something incredible that I can say, being, a few months out of crisis. I can say that I look back on it as something really special, that I got to do that. I got to be there for him.
Wow. It's really amazing how, you look at that so positively when really you could just say, those are the scariest moments of my life, and I don't wish this on anyone.
But two things can live together.
And that's really
I hold on to that a lot, is that you can have completely conflicting feelings at the same time.
Wow.
And that's okay.
The next morning when you got there, was Ikey communicating with you?
He wasn't responsive. He was on a lot of IVs, on drips, infusions, transfusions. I genuinely don't even know. At that point, I didn't know what I was looking at.
Right. So when you got in there, you're 7 months pregnant, and you walk in and you see your eldest son.
Waddled in.
Let's say. Yes. And you see your eldest son in this situation. What were your feelings in that moment?
Do you know what? Thank you, Hashem. I don't remember.
You blocked it out.
Yeah, I don't think I remember. I look at pictures. I took a lot of photos. I always take a lot of photos. I'm a visual person, so if I want to remember something, if I need to remember something, I take a lot of photos. And actually that saved me a lot in the medical world because I have a lot of evidence of things, and that's really important. I don't remember specifically, but I do remember that whole stage, as in that, what was it, 2 weeks we were in hospital. It was an absolute blur of your biggest fears all at once. At that point, the doctors were talking about leukemia and potential other things. Again, all of it was completely unknown to me.
What was the diagnosis?
So they didn't know. The doctors told me they were stumped in the sense of it could either be leukemia, which is similar. It can have similar symptoms like what Ikey was going through, or they don't know.
Well, that's reassuring.
And please know, I told them I'm 7 months pregnant. I'm highly anxious. If you have any bad news, I'm begging you to say to me, please will you ask your husband to come? Do not tell me any bad news on my own. Yeah, they told me it could be cancer or something worse or something else when I was alone. So that was great.
And did that scare you? Did you?
Yeah, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified.
What did you do?
I called my husband who was driving. I went to the bathroom because Ikey was in the bed and I didn't want him to hear. And I called him and I asked him if he's driving, and he said yes. And I said, can you pull over? And he did. And then I said, they're saying it's either leukemia or they don't know. At which point, I believe I was probably on the floor of the toilet at that point. But then he raced straight to hospital. And they took Ikey down for bone marrow testing with like a lumbar puncture, which basically is a hole in their spine, at the base of their spine, where they take a testing of the bone marrow to analyze it and see what's going on. The bone marrow is kind of, how do you say, it's like the thermometer of like what's going on in your blood. So he went for this surgery. That was his first procedure.
Is that straight away?
Yeah, they did that immediately. And it came back to say that it wasn't leukemia, but that something was wrong.
So at that point, was there a bit of relief? Because you're like, okay, phew, at least it's, it's not that.
It was relief in the sense of it wasn't leukemia, but there was no relief in the sense of we had no idea what was wrong with him, and he had similar enough symptoms to leukemia, which is obviously very dangerous. So we're going, well, then what is it? Because my kid is very ill.
Yeah.
So in the end, what it turned out was that he had something called parvovirus, which we know more commonly as slap cheek. And anyone listening to this is going to go, oh my goodness, slap cheek is dangerous because it's very uncommon to hear that slap cheek is dangerous, because it's very, very not dangerous for 90% of children. My statistics are not necessarily correct, by the way, but meaning to say most people are like not affected by parvovirus. And they told us that they gave us a name of a blood condition, and they told us this is what he's got. And children that have this blood condition react very badly to parvovirus. So at that point, we were very relieved, because we were like, oh, okay, it's just a blood condition. And this specific virus didn't agree with his blood condition, so we're over it. It's fine. We weren't. That was the start. And
so how many days had you been in hospital at that point? Like when you got that diagnosis?
No. We didn't get the diagnosis then and there. That was afterwards they make you, they need to do testing and everything. They got him better for us get discharged. I believe at the time it was probably antibiotics, blood transfusions, and some other infusions. I don't know exactly. Again, I wasn't in the medical world at that point, so I don't even know what they did or didn't do. All I know is that he got better and we got to go home. I'm waiting for results.
Okay.
We had a bunch of
how was life afterwards?
So we had a bunch of follow-up hospital appointments where they talked through this blood condition. I'm not naming it because it wasn't relevant, because when we were in hospital, when we got out of hospital, I gave birth maybe a month and a half later, 2 months later. And Baruch Hashem, he was fine. He was normal after that. And then I was doing, just motherhood with 3 kids. And I'm trying to remember if we had any major incidents. I don't think we had anything too terrifying in that first, chunk of time after my youngest was born. Actually, that summer, we didn't go away. We were meant to go to Spain that summer holidays, and we had to cancel it, obviously, because Ikey was still recovering or post,
Judy, often when we ladies give birth, we receive help from different members in the community or different family members. On the neighbors, the kids will go out and go to their houses after school. Were you concerned when you were pregnant with your 3rd baby, where you were going to send Ikey? Were you concerned for him to go to certain places?
Yeah.
Certain homes?
So I already had that. I already had a bit of worry because of his allergies and because he was so young. He didn't really have an understanding or ability when he was younger to manage his allergies. So I would say I always had nerves about leaving him just because we were chilled about the allergy stuff. But when he's not with us, he doesn't have the autonomy to deal with it. So anyway, we weren't so quick to leave him places and go without him anyway. And as he got older and he got these kind of long spells of being not well, we really didn't majorly leave the kids. And if we did, it was at family, which knew more medical insights, I guess, about him. But actually the birth, you're talking about the birth of my youngest, parvovirus is very dangerous for pregnant women. I'm saying this not to scare anyone, but
no, that is
aware.
so true. That is so true. I remember that there was a kid in school. I worked in a school and there was a kid that had slap cheek and I had to go home because I was pregnant.
Correct.
That's so true.
So I'm 7 months pregnant with a child and the doctors tell me you're not allowed to go near him.
Wow.
And you're have anxiety already.
And they're going, you can't kiss him, you can't hug him, you can't touch him, you can't get any of his spit or wee or saliva or anything. You can't go near because of your pregnancy. I did not listen because my child was in crisis and I was going to be there for my child. And while I didn't contract parvovirus per se, the doctors put me on very high testing. So from then on, I went into the hospital once a week for testing. I can't even begin to tell you the anxiety that I was placed with on keeping track of the baby's movements and the kicks and everything because of the parvovirus. And one doctor even said to me, well, if you touch your son who's in hospital, then don't blame me when your baby has brain damage. Which I don't think is all that fair.
No,
to
that's
make
not
you
fair.
choose between your child that's, not moving in a bed versus your unborn child.
Yeah, 100%.
But in that moment, I felt Ikey needed me and I wasn't going to leave him. But then, yes, my anxiety was horrific for the rest of that pregnancy. And we actually did have a few scares where my baby wasn't moving as much and I was in hospital and monitoring and it was all very chaotic. In the end, I was induced 3.5 weeks early because I actually, medically, they were happy to do it and I was
done,
not coping.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it for another minute.
Yeah.
So, and again, we only knew about Ikey at that point, so I wasn't overly concerned about the baby's health or anything like that, except for the parvovirus effect. So I was obviously very concerned to make sure that he came out okay and healthy. we had a diagnosis.
Yeah.
We were given.
That was
So in the follow-up from that, we were told he had a blood condition. That was all we were told with the name of it. And we had a few follow-up doctor appointments. I mean, hospital appointments, sorry, where they always, took bloods and monitored his levels. But there was really nothing to do for it, and we weren't told to do anything for it. It just was. And then the following summer, we went to Spain because we said we didn't get to go last year because we had to cancel it. We're going to go this year. And in the airport, it's just funny. In the airport, we were checking in your baggage, which to any Jewish family with children and baggage is the most stressful time of an airplane situation.
100%.
And my phone rings and it says, and it's the hospital. So obviously my heart is like, oh my goodness, what on earth is going on? So I run to try and find a quiet corner in an airport, which doesn't exist. Meanwhile, I'm holding my baby and my husband's juggling, the things on the weigh scale, whatever. Anyway, the hospital calls and they go, oh, hi, Mrs. Fagelman, just thought we'd let you know that we've actually got further testing done for Ikey's blood and he doesn't have the condition we told you. He's actually got 3
Oh my gosh.
different ones. And you're like, so what now? And you're going like, no, the other 2 goes, put it on the left-hand side, get the child, but so what? Diagnosis? Anyway,
goodness.
he told me, when you get back to England, we'll talk about it properly. I mean, that was a great flight. That was fabulous.
How was that flight?
Oh, it was ridiculous. I had no Wi-Fi and no internet, and I didn't have ChatGPT or Google to tell me, at my fingertips to tell me what on earth was going on.
Did she give you the names of the conditions?
Yeah. So I was writing them down, and these long, I mean, I could tell you them, again, it's not relevant, but like these long-winded names that were completely alien to me then, and now are obviously like the ABC. And we were just told, this is the information you need to know, and we'll discuss it when you come back to England. So there really wasn't much we did. I think at the time we were sort of like, well, he's okay now. He's healthy at the moment. When we booked Spain, we made sure that we booked near a hospital, which is what we do always. We need to make sure that we have access if, God forbid, we need it. And yes, we had a fabulous holiday, Bosham. It was really, really nice. And then when we came home, he got ill. To sum up, he got really ill. Basically, he ended up becoming transfusion dependent.
But isn't that a miracle that he wasn't when you were away? Like, did you have that concern?
Oh, we did go to hospital.
When you were away,
we did go to hospital when we were away.
Okay.
Which I highly don't recommend, going to a Spanish hospital when you don't speak a word of Spanish with your child. But he was okay. I think they gave him some light medication and miraculously, he was actually quite okay from that one. But that's not fun to do hospital in Spain. But then, it was. I'm telling you, the sun is good for kids that are not well. I mean, for my kids, let me not generalize. The sun is really good for my kids. So if anyone wants to send me some,
send me on a holiday.
Literally. It was. So when we came back and we started looking into what these conditions actually meant, they suggested to us that we should do DNA testing, that we should do, test the family and do further testing all round. At which point, and in every single appointment, they grilled my husband and I if we're related, because it's hereditary, the conditions that he's got. But we are not related, and we then went for family testing, meaning all 5 of us went to get full blood works done to get analysed in the labs. And neither me nor my husband have it. So it really is, it's not in my extended family. It's not in my husband's extended family. It's nowhere. It just came. So Ikey's got these 3 confirmed. Interestingly enough, after he got his diagnosis is when he sort of took more of a turn. And basically the way it works is the way his blood was changing over as he was getting older and getting bigger was that his blood wasn't sustaining him the way it's meant to. So it made sense that when he was younger, it was less affecting his body because he was smaller and his blood could manage to some degree. But as he was getting bigger and growing and his blood obviously had to work harder around a big body, it was not managing. And we ended up spending many a day, many a night, many a week in hospital. A lot of it was like blood transfusion related. So he would need constant blood transfusions in order to like get his energy back up, to get his to help his nausea, to help so many different symptoms that he had. And I have to tell you, through all of this, he is and was the smiliest, most chilled guy you have ever met. He's got my husband's genes through and through.
And yours.
Nothing phases him. Oh, if he had mine, he'd be a mess on the floor with nerves.
No. I think every one of those things that you have said you had anxiety with is just so normal. Like for someone to have, like I would think they're abnormal not having anxiety in those times. So, and at the other time, you know, you're so positive within as well. The way, you know, you've said so many things that, you know, the most amazing times, and even when you're going through the hardest times, and you've said that, you know, so positively, you're a very positive person. So that's definitely genetic through both parents.
I appreciate that. So maybe that's the hereditary bit.
That's the hereditary part.
A bit of medical humor.
Don't mind a bit of that.
Love it. But no, he honestly, like, you knew he was ill because that was when he dropped his, like, Simchat Zachayim. That was the only time. Otherwise, he's the smiliest, happiest, most radiant child you'll ever meet. And the beauty of the transfusions is that once he had them, it would return. Like, you could literally watch the life coming back into his body. That shows the level of dependency that he had on the blood transfusions, that it wasn't just, you know, I've had a blood transfusion in the past, like after my babies and stuff, and you feel like a different person. And I don't think at any of the stages when I had a blood transfusion, like from blood loss, meaning like normal things, that I ever needed it to the degree that he needed it.
So how often was Ikey getting a blood transfusion? How often were you needing to take him in?
So to start with, at the beginning of, like, I'd say the 2.5 year journey that we've been on, it started when he was poorly. So if he'd catch, you know, a cold or a temperature, the way normal kids do, he'd need a transfusion. So that could have been like a month, 2 months, you know, like 3 months even. And then it slowly turned into needing them more and more regularly. The doctors also were very like, don't mess around with it. If you think he's dropping, if you think he's looking more yellow, more jaundiced, which was one of his symptoms, you know, you come straight in. It was never like, oh, leave it and find out. It was very much, you come in straight in. So we really lived for a solid, I'd say, year and a half. We lived on, like, my phone rang, my heart dropped, I ran to school, I took him, we went straight to hospital, and you wouldn't know if that was for just, you know, 6-12 hours of A&E, or if you were doing a 3-day stay, or if you were longer. Like, we had no idea. And that was just our norm, and that was just what we did for about a year and a half.
Judy, I've got so many questions about about how you went on with your life now, with living practically in the hospital. You never know when you just had to, as you just said, you didn't know when you were going to go for a 3-day stay. How did you balance a job? How were you balancing life, childcare? What did you do?
And also, were you working at this time as well?
We'll be right back to this episode. Hi, I'm Danielle, a founder of Mother to Mother, an organization that supports and empowers women on their motherhood journey. We offer a wide range of services to make sure that every mother can thrive. From emotional support services to mother and baby groups, practical help, health information, a community kitchen, and much more. Mother to Mother builds communities of women to support each other. By tuning into our podcast, you have joined the Mother to Mother family today. Welcome and enjoy the episode.
Yes, so I was working through all of it at the start, as in all the way through, up until I stopped. I was working, I was doing makeup, I was a beautician, I was doing nails, I was doing wedding makeups, I was doing, you know, I was really, really busy, gosh, and it was amazing. Um, my other two were in school, so that was amazing.
Yeah,
I
as a
put my
baby.
youngest in nursery. Yeah, so he went to nursery from very, very young because I needed to know that I had him covered. Borsham, my husband, is owns his company, so he has flexibility in, stepping away if he needed to come and cover the house. It very much turned into I became hospital, my husband became home. So that was sort of how we juggled it. Every couple finds a way to make it work for themselves, but that was what we found the most, you know, um,
Easiest way
worked
to
for us.
cope.
It was the
Yeah.
easiest way to
And,
cope with it.
and did you tell family and friends from the beginning to get some support?
Um, it sounds mental now in hindsight to say it, but I genuinely just thought this is just what we're doing. Like, this is just our life, and that's
So
fine.
was it in normal
So I
conversation as
just,
well?
no, because I didn't want to be a nebulous case. I wasn't trying to be like looking for sympathy. I also didn't understand all of it so much. It was also very much of like, okay, so he's not well in the same way, like I have to go to work, and in the same way the kids need breakfast and supper. Like, it's just was part of life. And I kept working, and my husband kept working, and we just did. I can't explain. I remember so clearly though. I was in the hospital, and I had a bride the next day.
I was just about to ask you
And
that. What would you do if
yeah,
you've booked in someone
so
for a wedding and you had to
No.
stop?
correct.
Yeah.
So that was when I realized, I was like, actually, maybe I'm reaching a point where this is a bit too much for me to handle. Um, I, yeah, so like I said, I had a bride. Thankfully, she was an absolute angel. And I sent over all, like, I think I got my husband to take pictures of, because I write by my trials. I write obviously the extensive, all the products and everything that I use and all of that. So I know it, because we do trials sometimes weeks, months in advance of a wedding. And I sent it over to another makeup artist in Manchester, who I'm so grateful for the Manchester community. Honestly, I have the most beautiful, beautiful community here in Manchester. And this lovely makeup artist took over the job. She did a beautiful, beautiful job, and the bride was really happy. And I felt so, so, so bad to let her down. It's so not in my nature. I'm really not someone to bail
It's
on
just
someone or something. Like, it sounds so normal. Like, I would say to any friend, don't be ridiculous. Like, you can cancel. But I was like, no, I have to keep going. But like I said, thankfully she took over and it was fine. But then I did sort of realize around that time we were I was having so many drop what I'm doing and run moments. They were becoming more and more frequent, up to 3 times a week, where I would be like doing makeup for someone in my salon, and then my phone would ring. And even if it was the hospital, wasn't the hospital, like what it did to my heart, if it was school, it was so I would have like a visceral reaction to my phone ringing, because I was so scared of what it would mean. And and then it sounds silly, but because for Hashem, I was so busy with business, my phone kept ringing. Like, I had a lot of calls and I had a lot of messages, and it was actually just really triggering for me to keep having to be on my phone, or to keep having it ring or do something, because I kept being like, it's an emergency. And so it was crossing too many lines emotionally for me. I'd be talking to someone about their shade tool, or about, the shade of eyeshadow. And in my head, I'm going, but I'm waiting for those blood results. What are those numbers going to say? The doctor's meant to be calling me. Why hasn't the consultant called me yet? She said she was going to call me. I don't understand what those last set of bloods meant. And your brain is doing all this while you're trying to hold a conversation with someone, talking about whether they want a peachy blush or a pinky blush, which is really important to them. And it should be. And it is important to me as well. But I was feeling too cold, and the reality is that I 100% need to give my focus and attention to my kids. And so I hung up my work boots,
Wow.
and that was that.
How was that for you?
I was actually also doing the podcast at that point.
Oh, I love your podcast. If anyone, just can we
thank
do
you.
a
It
shout
was
out to your
that fun.
podcast now? Just it's amazing. Between
No,
between
it's not
laundry
running.
loads, between laundry loads,
Yeah,
I was a big listener. I was a big fan. I
so
even
cute.
stopped you in accessory welder
Oh,
from those
lol.
people, and I was like, Judy, I love your
I love
podcast.
that. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm sure you get plenty
And
of that now for yours. It's still up, but I haven't recorded in a good while. I was doing it again while I was juggling it all. And I really felt very, very strongly about my reason for doing the podcast was that I really wanted just to bring more simcha to the world. Like I wanted it to be light and easy, just to give light entertainment to the world.
you did those
And
agony
positive and like
aunts.
smiley vibes. Yeah, like just more cute and easy. And then my
So would you say it
personal
was
life
a
was just becoming too
distraction?
heavy.
Was it like
No, it was a
something
real
light that
part
you
of
could
me.
do?
I honestly, I love it and I loved it. And it really fed a part of me of like really light and fun. And I just think, why not just chill and gives company to people in their ears? That's how I saw it. But then it got to a point where I was like, I was feeling heavy in myself. You know, I was feeling low. I was feeling really anxious and worried for Ikey's health. It was getting more and more time consuming, his health, that I was very conscious that I didn't want to put on a podcast where there was a possibility of me giving over negativity or giving over like a downer mood. Like that just wasn't what I wanted to be putting out. So I was like, Siamti, you know, it was time to say it wasn't the right time to be doing it.
Judy, I know that
because I only want
Judy, I know that you said that, you know, you didn't want to make something of yourself, you know, to your friends and family. You kind of just like rolled with the punches. So I know that Camp Simcha is heavily in your life right now. So when did that start and how did you find out about them? And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So Camp Simcha was actually a huge part of my early married life. My husband is and was a massive Camp Simcha volunteer. He did it for something like 18 years from when he was like legally allowed to join Camp Simcha up until into our marriage. You know, he went to America to take the kids on camp many times. He had regular boys that he looked after
And
in
just tell
London,
us,
in Manchester.
Judy, tell us a little bit about what Camp Simcha is as well. Sorry, I'm just thinking now there's for sure plenty of listeners
Sure.
that in America who don't know what Camp Simcha is.
So Camp Simcha is an organization, I hope I'll do their tagline justice, where they're trying to help families in crisis by infusing joy into their life. So they're not there in a medical capacity, they're there more in a compassionate element. I don't know what the correct word is. From like support emotionally, with activities, with supporting the siblings, with retreats for the kids that are not well, and for the families. Like they do so much to bring joy into a not very joyful situation is really how I see Camp Simcha. And I say we, I'm piggybacking up on my husband's zachusim here, but it was very much him. He was a huge giver to Camp Simcha. He loved it. He loves it. And did it for so many years that it was extremely strange, alien, difficult for him and us to transition from being the givers to receiving the help and the care from Camp Simcha. And we didn't know that we were going to be able to get help from them because in my eyes, it was very much just cancer related, which it was back when I was a volunteer, you know, when I was younger, but they've expanded exponentially since. So there's many areas that they can help people with now. And like you say, I was sort of just, this is what my life is and this is what we do and we go. And I was sitting and talking one day to my friend who was in Camp Simcha. And I think I was having one of those where you're just like venting, letting it all out, but then validating, going, but I know it could be so much worse because like, I feel like that's the Jewish mindset of going, I know I'm struggling, but Yenim has it worse, so I'm okay. And she turned around to me and she's like, yeah, but you're not okay and the situation is not okay. So please, can I refer you to Camp Simcha? And I was like, yeah, with pleasure. We're not going to get in because it's not cancer, but like, with pleasure, you can refer us. And then a week later, we were in Camp Simcha. So we are very, very grateful that we have been under their wing and that we've had their help. You know, for my kids, the siblings, it's been huge.
What do they do for you?
Like, so much. It's hard to say, like, in a short time, but a very major part they do is they have a big sister program where they link up volunteers with children, some the children that are sick and some with the siblings, which again is what my husband did for so many years. And into our marriage, like, these boys were part of our home. Like, they would come and watch the football here. We would do Purms together. And now, Baruch Hashem, we have sisters in my family. I've got daughters because my sons have big sisters. We've been beyond blessed with the girls. I'm going to give them a shout out because every single one of them has been amazing, and I'm so grateful for what they've given to our family. They just give the kids a good time. They just take the kids' mind off it, and it's a huge help. It really is. You know, when you've had a long day, or if I've been in hospital, and then I just know that my other kid is going out. He's going to have fun. He's going to have a switch off, because obviously the medical world, we talk a lot about the child that's not well, but the reality is the other siblings' lives went from normal to suddenly completely out of whack. You know, my youngest doesn't know any different because he was born into it. You know, by the time he was old enough to understand, Ikey was already sick. So when you say we're going to the doctors, he goes for Ikey's medicine, where my middle son would not associate a doctor at that stage with Ikey, right? So he, in a way, is better off because to him it's normal, where my middle son, he obviously had normal life and then it just wasn't, and he just didn't know if mommy was fetching him from school today, or if someone was going to take him, or if I wasn't home and Ikey wasn't home when we'd be coming back. And we couldn't give him an answer because we didn't know either. So Camp Simcha really, really helped just to give that bit of light and joy and fun into a situation with a lot of unknowns and a lot of worries for little people, you know, for they're only little.
They sound incredible.
It's a lot for them.
But, you know, I just want to bounce back what you said about, it's so massive what you're saying about how you and your husband were with volunteers and you gave so much to Camp Simcha. And then you have to now receive from Camp Simcha. But in fact, you're giving them an opportunity to give like you were giving. And it's really just this like whole giving and receiving and back and forth, and you're both just feeding off each other, and that is just what we do. And I think it's just really beautiful. It's really beautiful, and it's very difficult.
Oh, the Jewish community is unmatched. The Jewish community is unmatched. Like, no one should ever be on the receiving end of chesed.
No.
But like, let me tell you, if you ever need to be, the wealth of kindness, I'm not talking money, the wealth of kindness and giving that people are willing to do and do is unbelievable. And it's really, really hard to take it, let me tell you. I ended up going to America with Ikey for what ended up being 3.5 weeks. It was meant to just be a few days to try and to see specialists in his field to get some guidance. And we ended up like bouncing around from house to house, people like offering their house. We got in touch with High Lifeline there. They were amazing. We got in touch with Refuah Kesh. They were unbelievable in linking us up with doctors and specialists. And we honestly, like, he had volunteers come and take him out for day trips in America. That's unbelievable. I was there by myself with him for 3.5 weeks with a sick kid and with no breaks, nothing. And it's so intense. And I'm traveling hours and hours to hospital appointments in a country that is not my country. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know these hospitals. I don't know these doctors. He's having procedure after procedure, test after test. He was not loving it. And we got people like opening their homes, opening their pools. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but these things changed the whole day. It was unbelievable. The volunteers took him out, and I still keep in touch with some of them because I can't explain the level of appreciative that I have for them in that moment for what we needed the help. But it's really, really hard to take it.
So
If you've
hard.
been in the given position, it's really hard to say, I actually do need help. I do need, input. And I just think that if people are doing, as I said, you're amazing. If you are opening your house, your home, your wallet, whatever it is to people, you're amazing. Do it with sensitivity. Chances are they feel really, really uncomfortable asking for help or accepting the help you're offering. So just keep that in mind. Don't ever take offense, because I'm sure no one ever means it. But it is tricky.
Judy,
Yes.
how is Ikey today? How is life today? Are you still going for transfusions the whole time? Has it calmed down at all?
We say Hoidu Lashem Kitov. He had major surgery exactly this time last year. We took his spleen out, which was a very large surgery, and actually this is why I'm even public about it, because I was never planning to be public about his being unwell, because it's his private life, and why should it be public, knowledge? And there's a good chance I'm completely in the wrong for sharing his story. I have asked him, but he's a child. How much does he understand? But post-op, he caught sepsis, and the surgery that we did for him makes him autoimmune, which means that he no longer has an internal immune system to fight viruses or illnesses, and this is what he's got going forward now. And at the time, he was really, really poorly. While I may have blocked out how I felt going into the hospital when he was 6 and it started, I cannot block out how I felt seeing him post-op. He was so ill and in so much pain, and I was so incredibly terrified. I cannot begin to tell you, because we had backwards and forwarded to such an extent about whether or not to do this surgery, to the extent that we flew to America to decide if we should or shouldn't. And then post-op, he got sepsis. I was beside myself. And a friend of mine opened a public Tehillim group with my permission. And it was the most beautiful Tehillim group. And I'm so, so, so grateful for the Tehillim that was said during that time. It was such a comfort. And I felt that because I had shared when I needed people to daven, it was only right to share and say thank you, and to see where we are. And B'li Ain Hara, he's doing incredible. Baruch Hashem, he's no longer blood transfusion dependent, which is the reason that we did the surgery. So while he is now autoimmune, he's able to live a completely normal, functioning life on the day-to-day. And it just means it just means that when he gets poorly with a temperature, then we need to take more drastic action, and he has to be hospitalized just in case it's sepsis or to prevent sepsis. But in terms of living life, he's now so healthy, so active, so amazing. Like B'li Ain Hara, his health is amazing, and he's got a quality of life back, which is all we davened for before the surgery. That was all we were davening for, was that he should have quality of life.
Does he say that to you, Judy? I feel so much better. Have you had that conversation with him? I feel...
See, if you knew Ikey, you'd know that's not even a relevant question, because he
Okay.
would never have told you he wasn't feeling good in the first place.
But you see the
He's
bounce
like,
in him.
oh, I see it. But you're asking if he would ask me. He's so happy. He would roll. You don't understand. He'd be like so ill and still be smiling. And all the nurses, I mean, he's got a really bizarre name. So in fairness, when his name goes on the board, it's not like there's many other Ikeys on the ward. It's not a Tom or a James. So the nurses would come and visit him because he's just so gorgeous.
Right.
And that's when he's ill.
He's really
So,
cute, by the way. I've seen
bless
pictures.
Christ.
He's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Real good-looking
He's
little
heaven.
guy.
He really is.
Judy, I
Oh,
actually
gosh,
wanted
then
to.
he
I
is.
actually wanted to go into that. Having a child that
Sure.
has a medical condition, then I'm
Yes.
sure that's really big for him. And obviously, we're talking about your journey here. Obviously, it's his journey, but
Yeah.
your what's the word?
My lived experience.
We're talking about your experience through Ikey's journey.
Yeah.
And how do you empower him? How do you help him whilst he's going through this medical journey? Because at the end of the day, he's different to all the other boys in his class, and he's missing school, and
Yeah.
he's having to go through these treatments, and it must be so incredibly hard for him. So how is that? How is he in his, I guess, his emotional sense?
So, I mean, when we say that Hashem gives a refuah before a makkah?
Yeah.
Like, Ikey's entire personality and being is so content that for him, that I genuinely think he's so resilient to the challenges that he's going through and has been through, because he takes it so rolling with the punches. He doesn't overanalyze it. If he's feeling not well, he tells me he's feeling not well. He tells me the symptom. He doesn't sit and wallow in it. He doesn't go, and now I can't do anything. Like, he's just not that kind of guy. He's like, oh, cool, I get to spend time with mummy. Like, genuinely. And it's not because I'm that great. It's because he's just chilled.
Well, maybe it is because you're that great.
And I can say that because I could see other children. Pardon, sorry?
I said maybe it is because you're that great. You're like a fun mum.
Oh, yes, I hope so.
Come on, of course.
Judy, does he
Mum,
ask the nurses questions?
So from very, very early on, I enforced a level of transparency between the doctors and Ikey. I had no interest in them talking to me as if he wasn't there. He's a person. He's an extremely intelligent child, and he fully understood what he was going through. And this was him we were talking about. So I was not interested in them talking, the doctors, the consultants, anyone talking to me about him. It was, you're talking to us about Ikey. And I did that by including Ikey in the conversation. I never outrightly said to them, oi, stop talking. Do you know what I mean? I would never be disrespectful. They were there helping us. I'm so grateful for the doctors and the nurses. But what I would do is I would say, Ikey, do you understand what the doctor's talking about now? Do you understand what those blood numbers mean? So these are the numbers that we're wanting it to get to, and these are the numbers that you're at now. So what we're going to do is the blood transfusion so that we can get you, and I would relay what the doctors or nurses or consultants had said to Ikey, and then the doctors understood that I was asking for him to be included in the conversation, and they did. And the reason that was important to me was because these children are going through something that is so out of their control, and things are being done to them on such a constant basis that they have to have an element of control in their life. They have to feel like they are a person. They are not just a prodded machine. And I wanted him to be able to say, I'm not comfortable, give me a minute. And you should have seen, it's the most phenomenal thing. He would say to the doctors, because he had obviously blood work and he was cannulated regularly, which is where they do a blood test and then they keep the tube in order to give medication. And he would have that sometimes 3 times a week, or more, many times. So when you would see it was because Ikey would say to them, when he's getting the bloods done, he'd say, please use my inside my right arm. Please use the cold spray. And then sometimes you'd get nurses that would be like, oh, I'm just going to do it. And I'd look at Ikey and he'd say, wait, I need to breathe. And like, he had the confidence at age 7 to turn around to a nurse and say, no, wait, please let me breathe. And he would take a few breaths and then he'd say, okay, I'm ready. And then he'd give them his arm, and he was calmest child, you know. And we did, don't get me wrong, we did many a blood test before that where you have a kicking and screaming child, which is the most horrific thing for a parent to feel like they're doing. Which is why I felt it was important to give him that capacity of control, to be able to control the situation in a healthy way. Not to feel like it was us versus him. It was very much him included in it. There's a funny story. We were once having blood work done, and generally speaking, it's the nurses that do it, and they're great at it because they're doing blood work all the time. And then a doctor came in and he said, I'm going to do your blood. And anyone in the medical world will understand that the doctors tend to be that little bit more overconfident because they're doctors. But when it comes to blood work, the nurses are better. It's just how it goes. And this doctor was like, very confidently reaches over to the cannula, takes the needle, whatever, and Ikey looks at the tray. I hate blood, by the way. I mean, that's just some kind of sick joke that I have a hematological child and I hate blood. Like, he doesn't mind it. And so he's like looking over at the tray and the tubes, and he goes to the doctor, you've used the wrong one. And the doctor was like, pardon? Ikey's like, you've used the red and you're meant to use the yellow, or whichever colour it was.
I can't, this child.
And the doctor genuinely, but like, he didn't say it chutzpahedically. He was just saying it really factually, like, you've used the red and like you're meant to use the yellow. And the doctor turned around and goes, do you know what? I was actually debating which one to use, but I think you're right. And he changed and used the one that Ikey said.
But that's amazing, because you produce the most resilient, amazing, confident child that says his needs, he's outspoken with his needs in a respectful way. And
yeah,
think of the skills that he's
always with
have.
pleases and thank you, by the way. Always. I'm huge on it. Like, it's especially in a world where we are so grateful for their help. Like, even if you're not grateful for someone's help, you know, you be polite and there's please and thank yous. But I feel so strongly that when we're in a hospital and we're representing and we're very clearly Jewish, you know, I've got a kid and a couple in Tzitzis, you know, always it's with a please and a thank you. And the doctors and the nurses respond so beautifully to it. And I just think, like, what a life lesson to go through life like that. And I don't want to say we got better care because of it, because we've had situations that there weren't the best care, but we've had so many like interactions with nurses and doctors and staff in hospitals, recurring interactions, and they like you because you're nice, and like, you just get a different treatment because you're nice. And I just think that's really important
100%.
to remember and to teach them. And I could agree at that. He's a good schmoozer.
Do the other children get jealous of the amount of attention that he gets on occasion?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's, interestingly, it wasn't the attention so much as it was about me.
Giving the attention.
You know, I think it was very much feeling like, but why does Ikey get to spend so much time with mummy? Or like, why do I have to go to school and Ikey gets to go to hospital with mummy? And actually, it was really important when we did the DNA testing, that blood work. It was really important for my middle one to see that it's painful, that it's not fun. I got Chapsham, I never wanted him to be hurt, but like, he needed to understand that he wasn't going to Disneyland with mummy each time when Ikey was off with me. You know, it wasn't fun. Obviously, he could never understand, and I wouldn't want him to understand Ikey's feelings of being ill or his symptoms, but to understand that the hospital wasn't Disneyland, but that we were making the best of what it was. But to at the time, 6-7-year-old, that isn't always so clear. So we did a really lot of me having, it's the wrong wording, of me taking the time to do date mornings with him. You know, like, I would take him out for a coffee and a croissant, not him a coffee, me a coffee, him a croissant. And actually, school was amazing about it. They understood that he needed the extra time. So if I took him to school a bit late, they didn't give me any grief. But yeah, it was tricky. It was tricky. But then again, the Camp Simcha stuff helped because he was getting treats. You know, he was getting outings and he was getting Hanukkah presents and he was getting
That's where Camp Simcha
big
is.
sister outings and trips. So
I think it's so
that's where they step
validating.
in to make it less of a jealousy thing.
Right.
100%. But I think it's so validating what you're saying, because even if someone doesn't have a big medical illness in the family, there's sometimes those children that get more attention than the others because they have something going on. And it could be for a small period of time,
Yeah.
but it happens. And I think that's just really validating to, you know, be able to talk to the children and just say to them, you know, it's not fun what they're going through. The fact that we have to spend time with this child, you know, it's not Disneyland, as you say. It's hard. They're going through a hard time and they need it. And you should be grateful that you don't have it.
But there is also a very, very fine balance about not trying to increase their anxiety.
Oh, also.
Because
yeah,
you don't want to show them too much. You don't want them to understand too much. In a way, I'd rather them go to therapy for feeling jealous about time spent with mummy than going to therapy for anxiety about or the health outcome of their sibling. So there is a fine balance.
such a good point. I love that. Wow, that's really important. But I also want to say a story, actually a very sweet story, real Camp Simcha. You know, they're unbelievable. My daughter was chatting on the couch with a friend of hers, and they were probably 9 at the time. And my daughter's friend has a sibling that's under Camp Simcha, and I was pregnant at the time, and my daughter's friend goes to my daughter, "Oh, I hope your mum has a baby with Down syndrome." And my daughter looked at her and she was like, "What? Why are you saying that? Like, I don't want my mum to have a baby with Down syndrome." And she was like, "No, because then they can join Camp Simcha. You know how amazing
Yeah.
Camp Simcha is? We have a big sister, my brothers have big brothers, and we go on trips. We get presents. We get so many things. It's the coolest thing to be under Camp Simcha."
I was going to say, that's the beauty of it. That's phenomenal. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I love that story. So just quickly going back to the medical part, why did they have to remove his spleen?
So by taking out the spleen, it means that his blood isn't being cleaned on that quicker cycle. It's not destroying things it didn't need to destroy, and basically means he doesn't need to have blood transfusions or isn't blood transfusion dependent anymore, which is amazing. But it does mean that now the immunity, which is stored, like the body's natural immunity, is stored in the spleen, and he doesn't have that anymore. So that's the downside of it.
Right.
But
that's what you had to weigh
by
up.
getting rid of
basically.
the spleen, he's got a better quality of life because he doesn't have those symptoms of the crashes when he needed those blood transfusions.
Do you appreciate Ikey like living in 2025, playing like, you know,
It's unbelievable. Let me tell you, this time last year, Simchas Torah, we were in hospital. That was when all of this was, the surgery. And this year, I said to Ikey, I wanted to make a Siddur. My husband and I wanted to make a Siddur for him. And he said he didn't want to. Like, he didn't want to make a big fuss. He didn't want people to be talking about him. Like, he didn't need the hoo-ha. So my husband made a Kiddush for his birthday, like sponsored a shul Kiddush, and we included in the email that it was also a Siddur for Ikey. And then I didn't mention anything too much for him around this time of year, more just thank you Hashem. You know, Ikey, do you want to say thank you Hashem? Because this time last year, you know, you were in hospital. And he did, and he turned around, and I love the way kids interpret things, and he like looks up to the sky and he goes, "Thank you Hashem." I'm like, I love you. But then in shul on Simchas Torah, I was watching him, and he's the kind of kid that like goes for the Sifrei Torah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have some that are there for the sweets, which is amazing, and they should be, and then you've got others that are there for the Sifrei Torah, and that's Ikey, and like singing and jumping and dancing at the top of his lungs. And he came up to me in the women's section at one point, and he said to me, "Mommy, I'm here. I'm in shul on Simchas Torah." I said, "I know, baby. I know, I'm so excited for you." And then we collected sweets for a kid that was in hospital. It was Simchas Torah.
Oh, I love that.
Like, and I have to tell you, as did my seconds, emptied their bags immediately for another kid that was in hospital for one of our friends' children.
Just going back to those skills that this is all, it's not pleasant what they've been through in all different ways, but the skills that
it builds you.
Yeah.
It's I have to say, like, when people say about challenges and things, and they say, oh, the strong people get challenges or something, or it makes you stronger. And I'm like, I can't challenge that, because who am I to challenge that? Yeah. But my perception of it is very much, it gives you awareness. And I think each challenge that I've been through, ones I speak about, ones I don't, are opportunities to make yourself more aware of what people may or may not be going through, whether it's that specific challenge or something completely different. It just creates that awareness to be more sensitive. You know, going back to the miscarriage thing, before that, I would happily have commented, Bashatova, or if you see someone with a bump or anything like that. And after my miscarriage, let's say someone did come over to me and say to me, like, oh, Bashatova, and I was like, oh, no, not really. And she went, oh, no, so which hospital are you having the baby in? And I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant. And she went, no, come on, you are. Which hospital are you having the baby in? And I was like, no, really, I'm not pregnant anymore. And she went, no, come off it. I can see your bump.
Oh, no, this is just
At
awful.
which point I was like, I'm really sorry, I've had a miscarriage. And I felt bad telling it to her, but I was like, I don't know how to make it more obvious. I was like, no, I've had a miscarriage. I'm not pregnant anymore. At which point she went, oh, and walked away. So it was a good interaction. But what did I learn from my miscarriage is, I can honestly tell you, I will not say Bashatova or anything about your bump. Whether that baby is coming out of you, I will not say anything until you've told me that you're pregnant. I have my closest friends who are like, but Judy, you know. And I'm like, until you tell me and confirm with me that you are pregnant or you're still pregnant, it's just not my business. I would never, chas v'shalom, want to inflict any hurt on someone for that. And I've had friends that think I'm weird for not wishing them Bashatova, and but I'd rather it that way than the possibility of me hurting someone that's already hurting. And the same goes with this medical. You know, I would never wish what we've been through. B'li ayin hara, we are in such a good place at the moment, and chasei Hashem for all the brachas He's given us. And I wouldn't wish this on any other child. I wouldn't wish this on any other siblings. I wouldn't wish this on any other parents. But I will say that the awareness it gives you to be so grateful for what you have, as well as being that bit more empathetic to people that are going through challenges. You know, if someone is quiet, I think a natural reaction is, oh, she's standoffish. You know, oh, she doesn't like me. It's never, I hope she's okay. Maybe she's going through something. And I think that what I've gone through has given me that little bit more awareness to say, it doesn't mean that I don't get upset or offended or think the wrong things. I'm sure I do. I'm human. But it does give you the opportunity that open that space for someone, that if they are struggling, you can give them that benefit of the doubt. Or that if someone does share with you, you're able to be so much more empathetic, not of the condition, because, you know, I've got so many friends in Camp Simcha, for example. We're going through completely different medical journeys. So I'm not being equal in any way or trying to be, but I am a mother with a child who's unwell, and you are a mother with a child who's unwell, and on that we can empathize, and on that we can sympathize, and, you know, be that bit more sensitive for each other.
Talking about other families that mothers are going through this challenge of having a child or children with medical conditions. Ending off here, would you be able to talk to that mum? Because that is the perspective that we're looking at this episode, from a mum's perspective. Would you be able to talk to that mother and talk to her from the space that, you know, what you've been through and where you are now? What's on your heart?
My knee-jerk reaction is just to say you're doing amazing. That is honestly, whatever your stage looks like of how you're doing amazing. There is no one that could do it better than you. It's your child and it's your life. And that means you know what's best for your child, even if you don't know medically what's best or emotionally what's best. They are yours and you are theirs. And that is your like baseline, is just being a mum. Like, you're a medical mum, but you're a mum first. And you're doing so well. And from this stage of Bali being that bit removed from crisis now, what I held on to really during it was everything is a stage. And that doesn't mean the stage ends and then it's over. And I think that people have that sometimes a little bit too definitive of like everything's a stage, meaning then it's over and now you're free. It's not about that, but it's more about the stage of overwhelm, the state of feeling so helpless, of feeling so unsure, of not knowing what's right, not knowing what's wrong, not knowing how to help the pain or help the emotional challenge, whatever it is. That's a stage. And it doesn't mean it's going to go away, but the heaviness of it will progress and you will gain new skills through that challenge, which will make the next stage that bit more manageable because you've built on your skills. And like, everything gets better because you get better at knowing your situation, your child, your capacity, your boundaries, and trust your gut. Your gut says you need space. You need to stop taking so much advice. You need to spend more time with friends. You need to spend less time with friends. Whatever your gut is telling you your boundaries need in order to cope and get through, like, honor it unapologetically. Because at the end of the day, it's you, your child, your family, your mental health, these are our core values, like our core focuses. Everything else is also a stage, and you will also go back at some point to socializing more or hosting or whatever it is that in your head is a focus. It will come in stages. It will come and it will go, and it will ebb and it will flow. And I mean, I just decided to go and start a Zumba business. If you would have told me 2 years ago I was going to be starting a business, I would have laughed, because like, in what world? Like, I was juggling more medical paperwork than a lawyer. I'm not joking. So it would have been unfathomable to think I had mental space, but it does. Different things come. And the medical anxiety and stress isn't gone. It's not like that stage is over. You just have different skills, and you've got different strengths. You've got different help different people. Yeah, it's good, and you'll be okay, and you already are okay.
I think that will be really good advice as well for mums that are maybe going through it right now, to think, maybe actually I can do that. I have time for that. Just to give yourself a little bit of me time, a little bit of, what do you call it?
Self-care.
Just a little bit of self-care.
I think the concept of self-care, if I can, because I am in the social media world, where I was anyway. So I see how these things sort of progress and snowball. And the concept of self-care has very much become about adding things, like adding more exercise, adding more facials, adding more manicures, adding more massages, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy for all of those things. Like, yes, please. But in terms of self-care, I actually think a lot more of it is about sitting with yourself or sitting with a therapist,
100% agree.
Yeah. I think, thank you.
It's really important.
I think so too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
100% agree.
it's so important. And it's actually something I only figured out or learned or whatever it was, a while into my journey. It was very much a case of me trying to add things, and I wasn't understanding why I wasn't feeling that what you're meant to feel when you do the facial, or what you're meant to feel when you, whatever it is. But it was creating more pressure, get to something, do something, go out, go, do. And people would say to me, go for a coffee with a friend, go out to eat, work a bit, do something, take your mind off it. And I'm like, it was all just more responsibility, where in my head, personally, what worked for me, I don't know if it works for other people, was sitting and like introspection. Sit with a diary, and write your feelings out. Every single bit of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Write it out, get it off your chest, get it out your head, and put it on a piece of paper. Like, if you're in a financial ability to have a therapist,
I love
go
this.
to therapy, talk to someone,
It's
and
very
get it
powerful,
off
right?
your
This
head.
is
It's
amazing.
all
Obviously,
about, to me,
it might not work for
self-care
some.
is about relieving pressure in your head, not so much about adding things.
It might not work
But
for
not
some.
to say, I was going to
Yeah.
say, not to say that for someone to get their nails done genuinely is the thing that
It's
makes them feel
self-care.
like a mensch.
Exactly.
In which case, absolutely honor and do what makes you feel good. Like,
Yeah.
hello, what do you mean? I was in the beauty industry. I saw women come and they would tell me they felt amazing afterwards.
And
So I know it relates to a lot of people. That's why, like, it's not so much about what works for me, what works
Yeah.
like
Yeah, this
for
is
the
what
next
worked for you.
influencer, for someone else. Each person, honor what it is that makes you feel
Yeah.
good. And if that's sitting in your bed with a takeaway, do that. If
Yeah.
it's
It could
like
be a balance of
now,
both sometimes.
yeah,
You know?
100%. And some days and some weeks, all you want is, you know, that coffee with a friend. You need that human contact that isn't your child or a hospital bed. And other days you're like, if I have to talk to a soul, I will explode.
I really, really hope that everyone was just grabbing
But
everything from this episode. And even if they're not going through
very,
something,
very sweet to say
hopefully
that.
most people that are listening to this are hopefully not going through anything, any kind of challenge. But it's really just that awareness.
It's inspiration.
You don't know what's going on in people's lives.
Yeah.
And just to be sensitive and to really understand it and offer the support, offer the help, offer a meal, offer anything that you can do just to
100%.
take a bit.
And another thing, like, in terms of self-care, is what I had to learn the hard way is you can't do it all yourself. You know, if someone offers you a meal, take it. Like, and if you're in the position that you're the one offering, it's so sweet to say, anything you need, I'm here for you. It's really kind. But when someone's in crisis, it's very hard for them to have to think which bit of what they're going through would be helped out by someone. Whereas if you say, listen, I'm making chicken soup, I'm making you a double batch, it's in your porch, you know, it's done, it's something off my head and I don't need to think about that come Shabbos. Or I'm going to the shops in half an hour, send me a list of what you need, here's my bank details. So they don't need to go like, oh, but I don't want you to pay. Like, no, you're saying I'm not paying for it. Like, I'm helping you out, taking, you know, offer. If you're offering, sorry, I'm not telling you what to do. If someone is offering help, a really, really nice way to do it is to offer something specific so that the person receiving the help knows it's not a bother for you. It's very hard to feel like you're being a burden on someone else.
Yeah.
So if you're anyway going to
amazing.
school to do pickup, you can just message and say, I do rota on a Monday and a Tuesday. Is it okay if I take your kids for you? You know, it's such an easy way. And I know that so many people want to help because we're part of the most incredible Am Yisrael, and the Jewish women are next level with chesed, like unbelievable. There is a new organization in Manchester called FIG, which helps people filling in the gaps for people that are in crisis in various different ways of like things like that, but getting the shopping for you or picking up the kids or, you know, so many different areas. Please reach out to FIG in Manchester.
Thank you so much.
You are amazing. Thank you for listening to this episode on Spotlight. If you were affected by any of the challenges we have discussed, then please visit www.mtom.org.uk/podcast for guidance on where to find help.
Do you also have a story to share? Be in touch if you'd also like to be a lifeline for others by sharing and empowering women across the world. Podcasts at mtom.org.uk.